The programme Prevent, the UK government's flagship counter-extremism programme, and how it spectacularly has come to represent the very danger it was designed to guard against, the distortion of power through ideological paranoia, is something that I think should give us all great concern. When a programme fails to deliver the goods, that is bad enough. When it starts grabbing headlines simply for the sake of headlines, I think there is disaster in the process. And intentionally, Prevent was intended to stop terrorism in its tracks, but it now functions less as a scalpel against violent extremism and more as a bludgeon against uncomfortable political thought. The latest example of Prevent is labelling cultural nationalism, in other words, concern about mass migration and integration, as a potential gateway to terrorism. First of all, as a concept, it means almost nothing, but secondly, it further belittles people who are caught in that process. Prevent emerged in the aftermath of the 7/7 bombings. It was meant as an early warning signal, a humane and proactive approach to identify those sliding into radicalization before violence occurs. And its remit was urgent: to stop jihadist plots, to disrupt the ideological supply chains of terror, and work with communities to build trust. But a decade on, Prevent is best known for not preventing terrorism, for failing to do so. Salman Abedi, the Manchester Arena bomber, was known to prevent. So was Ali Harbi Ali, who murdered Sir Davis Amis. So was Axel Rudakabana, who killed 3 girls in Southport last summer. All 3 were flagged, all 3 slipped through. Why? Because Prevent, for all its resources, has become a bureaucratic confidence trick, better at training teachers to detect problematic opinions than stopping those building bombs. The programme's latest materials list cultural nationalism, the belief that Western culture may be undermined by uncontrolled migration, as a subcategory of right-wing terrorist ideology alongside ethno-nationalism and white supremacy. This is not about incitement, but not about violence, not even about hate speech. It's the idea that cultural cohesion matters, that immigration without integration weakens national identity, a belief shared at some level by millions. What is Prevent doing here? It's not targeting terrorists, it's targeting cultural heresy. It's targeting those cultural heretics who step out with a narrow technocratic orthodoxy. Sir Keir Starmer himself has warned that Britain must not become an island of strangers. Would that get him flagged? What about Robert Jenrick, who said that uncontrolled migration cannibalises public compassion? Or Douglas Murray? Or Matthew Goodwin? Are they now studies in extremism? This shift is absurd on its face and dangerous in its consequences. It redefines ideological extremism not by what people do, but by what they think. It punishes people not for planning horror, but for expressing legitimate concern. As Professor Ian Akerson put it, this is not counter-extremism, it's policy wonkery masquerading as national security. And we've replaced actionable intelligence with political profiling. We've confused patriotism with provocation. Meanwhile, real extremists hide in plain sight. The training courses that now flag conservative commentary on migration failed repeatedly to stop individuals radicalized through Islamist propaganda, even when they were known to authorities. And there's a deeper malaise here. Prevent is not merely bureaucratically misguided, it is philosophically incoherent. A government that cannot distinguish between dissent and danger has begun to act not merely as sovereign but as priest. It has installed itself as the moral interpreter of what is acceptable belief. This is a form of soft theocracy, one that replaces religious dogma with bureaucratic sanctimony. The tragedy is not simply overreach, It is a state that has lost faith in its people and seeks instead to manage them through fear. As classical philosophy teaches us, from Plato's Republic to Aquinas' Summa, there can be no justice in a regime that fails to distinguish between sin and crime, between error and evil. Prevent now polices thoughts as if they were acts. Prevent needs not a refresher course, but a complete reformation. If we want to protect this country from extremism, we must begin by protecting it from the extremism of its own institutions, because when a government turns citizens into suspects for caring about their country's culture, if it's no longer defending democracy, it's redefining democracy. And that must be a problem. We cannot redefine these things from the top down and expect everyone to conform. There may be some element of truth in what Prevent is flagging up, but it's flagging it up with such a heavy-handed fist of absurdity. It's doing itself and the country an injustice.